Inside every single smartphone, every data center, every AI model that is literally changing our world, there's this one critical component that makes it all possible. And it's all thanks to one company, a company that's so fundamental to our digital lives, yet almost nobody knows their name. This is the story of the invisible engine that's powering our future. So, let me just ask you this. What is the most important company you've never heard of? Seriously, think about it. It's not a trick question. The answer is hiding in plain sight, right at the heart of the global semiconductor supply chain. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain. Okay, let's get right into it. We're talking about an invisible giant, a Japanese chemical company called Tokyo Ohka Kogyo, or as most people call them, TOK. Now, they don't actually make the chips themselves. Nope, they make the one absolutely indispensable ingredient that allows chips to be made in the first place. And believe me, they are incredibly good at it. In their 2025 fiscal year, TikTok pulled in nearly $1.6 billion in revenue. But the number that really makes your jaw drop is their operating profit. It's skyrocketed by over 43%. That kind of growth tells you one thing, and one thing only. Their product is in ridiculously high demand. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Where does all that demand come from? Get this, a massive 33.6%. That's a full third of their revenue comes from a single customer, TSMC, the world's biggest and most advanced chip maker. This isn't just some supplier-client relationship. It's a deep, symbiotic partnership that puts TOK smack dab in the center of the entire AI revolution. So what on earth is this indispensable ingredient they make? Well, the answer lies in the science of shrinking, the relentless quest to keep Moore's Law alive, and what is basically a microscopic magic potion. And that magic is a chemical called photoresist. The easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like a microscopic stencil. It's this light-sensitive liquid that gets spread super thin on a silicon wafer. When light hits it, the chemistry of the liquid literally changes. That change allows chip makers to print the unimaginably complex circuit patterns that are the blueprints for a processor. This whole process is called photolithography, and you can really think of it as a four-step recipe. First, you coat the wafer with TOK's photoresist. Second, you expose it to a pattern of light. Third, you develop the pattern by washing away the parts that changed. And finally, you etch that pattern permanently into the silicon. You do that hundreds of times, layer by tiny layer, and voila, you've got a computer chip. Okay, so here's why this is so mind-bendingly difficult. For chips to get more powerful, the circuits inside them have to get smaller and smaller. We call this node shrinkage. The difference between an old 28-nanometer chip and a modern 2-nanometer AI chip, it's like the difference between a simple map of a city's mean roads and trying to fit that entire city's road network, every single alley, every lane, onto a tiny postage stamp. The lines you're drawing are just a few atoms wide. It's insane. And that right there is where TOK becomes the king. To draw those impossibly small lines, you need a special kind of light called extreme ultraviolet, or EUV. But for that light to actually work, you need an equally special photoresist. And TOK? They are the world leaders in making these EUV photoresists. It's the only ink in the world precise enough for the job. All right, so we've got this science down. But in the world of semiconductors, what you make is only half the battle. Where you make it and who you make it for, well, that's a whole other game. This is the global chessboard. Just look at these numbers. This table basically lays out TOK's entire world. A staggering 56.6% of its revenue comes from Taiwan, China, and mainland China combined. Then you've got other heavy hitters like Japan and South Korea. This heavy concentration means their entire business is tied, for better or for worse, to the stability of East Asia. So how do you manage that kind of risk? Well, TOK has this brilliant strategy they call local for local. Instead of shipping these incredibly sensitive chemicals across oceans, they just build their factories right next door to their biggest customers. It's genius, really. This guarantees a super fast, customized supply, and it acts as a firewall against shipping nightmares or sudden trade wars. It's this cool 3-in-1 system with sales, R&D, and manufacturing all right there on site. And they are not just talking the talk. They are putting some serious cash on the table. They're pouring over $134 million into a new state-of-the-art factory in Koriyama, Japan. This is all about securing production of their most advanced stuff right there on their home turf. But they aren't stopping in Japan. At pretty much the same time, they're dropping another $80 million on a new facility in Pyeongtaek, South Korea, which is home to the world's memory chip giants. This dual investment shows you their whole playbook. Secure the core at home while embedding yourself as deep as you can within your key allies' markets. So, all of this, it brings us to their blueprint for the future. A company with this kind of momentum and this much cash isn't just sitting back and relaxing. They are aggressively investing to make sure they dominate the next decade of tech, too. I mean, just look at this growth one more time. Going from $221 million to over $316 million in operating profit in just 1 year. That's not just a nice number for shareholders. That's raw fuel. That's the capital they are deploying right now to fund the research and build the factories for chips that don't even exist yet. And their plans for 2027? Man, they are not messing around. They're aiming for nearly $20 billion in revenue, and they're focusing their R&D on the next big frontiers in chip design, things like materials for stacking chips in 3D, and for a totally new transistor architecture called GAFET. That's the next step to making chips even smaller and way more power efficient. Oh, and they're also expanding into Europe by buying a German specialist to get a foothold over there. So you piece it all together, and it's crystal clear. TOK has the formula for the future. They make a product nobody else can, they're tied to the hip with the most important customers, and they have a rock-solid plan for what's next. But it leaves you with this one big nagging question. In the middle of these escalating global chip wars, can a company this critical, this important, really stay neutral forever?